This is the Mavericks in Motion podcast. I am your host, Shari Teigman, mindset coach and creative business strategist, and I am here to share with you the Mavericks of the world and pull the curtain back to teach you what it takes to have the mindset of a Maverick. Today's guest and the organization that he and his dad have built will blow you away. Josh Travers comes from the organization Saved in America, and this is a California non-for-profit organization of former police officers and Navy SEALs who assist parents and law enforcement in locating missing and exploited children. So they have taken on the mission without charging the families to be able to rescue kids who are fallen into the trap of sex trafficking organizations and all of these horrible things. And what's amazing is they have a 100% rescue rate. So I had seen an article about Saved in America, and I realized we've got a bunch of Mavericks on our hands, and I cannot wait to share their story with you. Welcome back to another episode of Mavericks in Motion. Today I have on someone I'm going to try not to cry the whole show. But for those of you who know me, it's likely going to happen because this mission is so big and means so much that if this doesn't touch you, I don't know why the hell you're listening to my podcast. So on the show today, I have Joshua Travers, who is part of the organization Saved in America. And I'm actually going to let Joshua talk about what the mission is because I won't do it justice. And then we'll go into the backstory of, you know, it takes more than one man to create a mission like this. And so it's not just one Maverick. We've got a whole crowd of Mavericks, which is just Maverick amplified, which kind of works in today's world of, Joshua and I were just talking before we recorded on all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world. It's kind of going to bring out the best and the worst in people because everything's going to be amplified. So I think we'll be pleasantly surprised by some people and quite disappointed in other people. So I think we're recording this at the perfect time. So thanks so much for coming onto the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor. Thank you.
So tell me give us a little history, although anyone can go onto the website, which will be in the show notes. Give us just like the run through of the now and how this started.
So currently here at Saved in America, I operate as the case manager. So all of the intelligence and everything that we gather comes through me, and I disseminate it to our teams. And it's sometimes also put in a donor packet to submit it to donors and government agencies and stuff. Saved in America was founded by my father in 2009, Joseph Travers. And we're based out of San Diego, but right now we're actually nationwide. I'm the director of the East Coast operations here in Charlottesville, Virginia. We've rescued 237 children since we started having active operations in 2014. So it's been a very wild ride. Like you said, it's a perfect time to talk about something like this because we're dealing with unprecedented circumstances. And here at Saved in America, we've been dealing with what other people would consider an unprecedented circumstance with child sex trafficking and runaways and everything, since 2009. So,
and you guys are all made up of people who have been dealing with unprecedented situations even before Saved in America. So we're like 3 knees deep into this. This is all made up of policemen, investigators, Navy SEALs, Marines, if I'm correct on that. So this is all on top of all the unbelievable work you guys put yourself into on a day-to-day basis in your quote-unquote day jobs. With all of your free time, instead of drinking a beer and watching a game, let's go save children. Great. Got nothing else to do on a Wednesday.
Yeah, that's to kind of segue, that's kind of how we started when we sat down and we thought, hey, doing the different, we saw a news article about Brittany Drexel. Then we saw a news article about Navy SEALs going overseas, rescuing children overseas. And we started putting together and realized there's nobody here rescuing children. And so we decided to put together different pillars for Saved in America. And one is that we were never charge a parent a dime for anything that we do. No parent will ever be charged for Saved in America to come help find your child. Not only that, we will also try to fundraise for any rehabilitation we can for the child. Two, we're fully licensed private investigators that are insured for not just our investigation aspect, but because of who we deal with and everything we do. We have firearms qualifications and insurance and everything. Three is we're all highly trained, either special operations, retired law enforcement. Most of our special operators are Navy SEALs, but we have Green Berets, Special Forces. We have British SAS, and then, Marine Raiders too. So you got these guys that are, been doing 20 years, highly trained, using their skill sets coming in here. And those pillars is what we decided to piggyback off of for Saved in America. This country gave us so much to be grateful for, and we just want the children to be able to have that same life.
What's so amazing, though, I mean, from your perspective, the country gave you so much, but all of you give the country so much. And I know I've worked with a lot of veterans in my work who are recovering post-military service or police, mindset sort of thing and trying to recover. And unfortunately, we hear a lot of those stories, suicides, a lot of alcoholism, because a lot of people will make digs at the organizations for not reacclimating people into life. You have every spectrum of this. But it's so beautiful to see people who have given their life to service and to other people and to represent a country and represent the goodness and the law of what should be, how people should be treating other people and how to keep people safe. And then you go do more thinking you have the country to thank, which is just so incredible to me. And as we talked about before we press record, this idea of being a maverick, I'm going to ask you a question that I ask every interview, and I know what you're going to answer, that I interview on this show, and everyone answers the same thing, and I know what you're going to answer. Do you see yourself as a maverick? No, of course not.
No.
It's just Tuesday. This is just
Nope.
Unbelievable. So when I say that to you, and I say there are people who are, and you deal with them every day as a police officer, selfish and clueless about the world, and then on top of what you deal with, I mean, you are the case manager, which means every horrific story comes through your hands before it gets spread out to whoever's actually going to do this. You get the horrible part of this, not the pretty ending story, fingers crossed, about all the hundreds of kids that you've saved. So when this hits your lap every day in your phone, in your laptop, and you see the worst of people and these horrible details of what's gone on and ages and children's faces, how do you keep in your mind that the world is a good place and that it's worth doing good things for good people and not holing up in your house with some canned goods and the shades shut down and be like, you know what, I'm out?
Professionally, I look at it as, there's hundreds of millions of children, billions, that grow up and have a quote unquote normal life. But for these 237 children that we've rescued, their life might never have been normal again if it wasn't for somebody taking the time to care about them and bring them back. And, from a personal level, I'm a Christian. I believe that everything happens for a reason. On a personal level, I think that children have a special innocence given to them from God that's just different. And the hardest part is when you do rescue a child, is knowing that the law is and justice is going to end up prevailing in the end, and you don't have to take that in your own hands. You just need to rescue that child and make sure that they're safe.
Which I'm sure in the moment of rescue, if it was me, which is probably why I'm not in law enforcement, I'd be like, you know what, everyone look that way. I'm just going to handle this and I'll be right back. You take the kid, I'll meet you in the truck afterwards. I mean, also to me, honestly, and I say this with an open heart and love, who I've been through divorce, have been through a different part of the legal system, and the legal system doesn't always do right and wrong. So I think honestly for me, I give you guys extra kudos for trusting the system that much that when you get that far to be able to then hand off the rest of the situation to the government and to the legal system that you can't guarantee is going to go the way you want to go in a scary world that we live in. that's another level of trust in something bigger that like you say, and I agree, everything happens for a reason. Like, that's out of your hands. You did your part, and the rest will play out how it's meant to play out, and karma and people's journeys and all of that. But that's got to be so challenging. And I'm sure, I mean, I know you are all trained in that in your previous lives, in your regular jobs, to let go of that as well. Whether it's military, whether it's police force, to do your part and then hands off and not take it home with you and not be up all night. You won't survive if you carry all of this with you all the time.
No, you're right. You're 100% correct. It's not something that I gotta say this. We carry the stories of these children with us to the next case and on, but we don't see it because we have 100% success rate. We've taken on 237 cases, got 237 children. So, the blessing for us, I guess the silver lining on this cloud, is that we know we're going to rescue them.
Amazing.
We know it's going to happen.
Well, I love that because I teach mindset, and right there, you don't go in. This is a lesson to everyone about intention and decision in order to make something happen. Because if you walked in there, any of you, with a shadow of a doubt that you were not going to crack this and find this, you would not have that success rate. You just wouldn't, because you wouldn't be coming at it with the mindset, the energy, the stamina, the problem solving. And this, on a smaller scale, we all have to do every day in our lives, in every area. If you think you're not going to get the job, you won't get the job. If you think you're not going to lose the weight, if you think you can't do something, I think it was Henry Ford, someone said, if you think you can't, or you can or you can't, you'll be right, because it is a decision. So this means you guys decide this is going to be 100% success rate, no matter what it takes and how long it goes. And that is a trained mindset. No one is born with that.
Right. That's 100% true. And I think that's why some of our, one of the reasons we chose to work with the operators that we do is that beyond the trained human instinct, you can train yourself to have that mindset every day. But especially when you start getting these, retired police officers, special operators that, their whole entire life has been like, I will accomplish the mission. I will arrest this person. I will solve this case. It's a whole different, mindset that sometimes you can't even train.
I agree with you. It is training, and then combined with who the person is inherently, because they were all trained with a whole team and a whole class. And if you line them all up, you would not have the same response, the same history, the same results across a class of people you may have trained with 20 years ago, whatever it is. So logistically, can you go into a bit and tell me obviously what you can and leave out what you're not comfortable sharing from a government perspective, as a uninformed, frightened American, that this is as common as it is. Even I was reading an article about the Super Bowl that I had no idea. I'm ashamed about how little I know about this. I'm a mom of 2 kids. I should know this. How prevalent this sex trafficking is. Runaways is obviously another story, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this sex trafficking is so prevalent, and in my naive American mind, that happens in other countries. That happens in third world countries. That happens in war-torn countries. Not in America. Ha ha ha. So where was the government at the point when this started in 2009 with this, that your dad, when he started it, realized, hold on a second, we've got skills and we've got people who can do this, and the government is only doing it to a certain degree, or not looking at it at all, or they don't have the manpower? How did this come about?
So what we found out, especially, so you got to think, we started 2009. We started our operations and our recoveries in 2014. So it took us 5 years to get to an operational position. Once we started doing it, of course, and I kind of got to take a step back and look at the process, how we do things. So before we do an operation, when we get intelligence that we need to go to a certain locale to operate, we let local law enforcement know that we're coming. And we don't kick in the door. We let law enforcement do their part. So what we found out, though, is that, and they knew to a certain extent what was going on, but not necessarily how to be able to solve it with their limited manpower, their limited, and honestly, some of it comes down to financials too, because you have, X amounts of detectives and patrol officers with X amount of money for overtime and budgeting. So having a non-governmental organization, an NGO for short, Saved in America, come in there and say, hey, we're going to volunteer all this time to go after these runaways and children that have been sex trafficked, and then hand them over to you. That's just a lot of law enforcement agencies at first were a little skeptical and understandable.
And that's where there's also a lot of egos involved of like, no, that's our department, that, and there's stuff that goes on behind closed doors and things. So I'm actually most amazed, besides the incredible work you do, we're talking about government agencies. Things don't move quickly in these places. I don't know what it's like in other countries of people listening, but it's not like this open door oh, hey, I don't even know you, and you're coming with your badge. I don't give a shit. I have my badge. So I would assume there'd be a lot of pissing contests of like, you're not coming into our jurisdiction and doing stuff to make us look bad. And you're standing there like, there's a child who needs us. How about we have this conversation afterwards? But jokes aside, I would think that was one of the biggest barriers at the start.
It was a learning experience for both parties, because obviously us coming together, even some of us from the law enforcement background, right, are thinking, like you said, oh, there's a child, we need to get him, and our direct, Joseph Travers, the director, he's a police and fire commissioner for 11 years. He was a law enforcement officer for a decade before that, private investigator for all this time. So he kind of expected it and kind of saw it before, but
some knows it from the other side. Exactly.
Yeah. So the other guys, like some that weren't in it as long, or the military guys, were like, hey, let's go. But I think it was a learning experience, because not only did we later, after working, get invited to we've been all the way up to the federal level, the Human Trafficking Information Exchange Committee at Department of Homeland Security, through their Office of Human Smuggling and Trafficking. We've, gone to major, without giving names, but some of the largest police departments in the United States have brought us in to help train and to show us the capabilities that they're willing to help us with if we find a child there. So it was definitely a learning experience, but I think once they saw that, there's a lot of organizations that claim to rescue children now in the United States, but they saw that Save America is actually out there doing it.
Yeah. And this also speaks to what happens when someone stands up to disrupt and doesn't quit, because that could have stopped somebody. And there are always going to be barriers to anything that we want to create. But when you stand from this Maverick perspective and move with an open heart, with a good intention, and with a common goal, it takes away that line of everyone with their defenses, with their arms crossed. And we're talking a lot of macho men here. Let's be real. We're not talking about this airy-fairy, fluffy self-help group here. We're talking about people who take, every single person here takes their job so seriously. So anyone coming to question how well they're doing something, can feel threatening. But knowing everyone put their guards down, there's a common goal here. Look what transformed in the past 2000. I mean, look where we are 11 years later, where you're getting doors opened that no one has ever known there was even a door there. Just speaks to, again, sticking with the mission, believing in something, and knowing there's always a way to, like Joseph said, he knew these mentalities. So each person needs a different kind of conversation. There's a different in with each person. You don't come banging down just because you believe in something. You find the commonality. You find an answer that makes them look good, that they can do their press release with. And then, if you take the egos out and you go back to the mission always and the bigger why, we could all have very different lives and businesses if we actually lived by that. There's a lot of surrender in that, and that is not easy, especially in what we're talking about. It's this dance here of knowing yourself and your mission so well that you can morph around whatever obstacle comes, instead of, this is how we do it and this is the only way. Like you said, at the end of the day, that kid will still be stuck there if you stay to that. So it's just fascinating to me. It's really incredible. So the people who come and volunteer in this, how do you find them?
It's, so when we first started, we had somebody on our board that heard of us through a ministry that he was in and said, hey, I'm a retired Navy SEAL, medically retired. I know a bunch of guys who'd love to help you. And that's how we started. We started with Navy SEALs. That's like,
That was the original.
Wow, you just went straight in there.
You know,
Wow.
they came in, you know, and the kind of guys that we're talking about, and, you know, without sharing his name, he retired. He was a retired chief from the SEAL teams. He actually, during a training, got his right hand blown off. He had so it was gone. And after he recovered, he came back and said, I still want to be on the team. They said, okay, well, you have to learn to do everything with one hand. And so he came back, learned to shoot left-handed, and to be honest with you, probably some people say shoots better with one hand. Worked with doctors, made a special contraption and everything. So he came back to full duty on the Navy SEAL teams with one hand.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Most people be like, okay, I'm out. I get my
No.
card. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of caliber of people who now step up and say, I'm not done helping. I'm not done serving.
Right.
Wow. So is there a different training to be doing coming into Saved America from all of these factions of the indoctrination that they have and the processes that they know and the way that their minds work? And then you guys come in and we're talking very, very delicate situations. I mean, every kid's life is on the line, probably even more when they know you're getting closer. That, you know, this is not target them, locate them, target them, and pull them out. This isn't we're not playing the game of operation with the little tweezers here. So when they come to you with all of their drive and all of their machismo and all of the belief, which is wonderful, what does it look like becoming part of Saved in America itself?
So we have I guess now it's technically a nationally accredited certification called a Certified Missing Exploited Child Investigator. So me and my father worked together to actually compile case files and stuff from some of the original operations that we did. And then on top of that, we actually wrote the book on how to locate children using the number one tool in the whole entire world, which is a cell phone.
Frighteningly, it's easy. It's easy for them to get taken, and it's easy to find them.
and you know, it's, you know, and not to kind of go, you know, just segue off, but, you know, just something to think about right now is we're going through COVID-19 crisis right now. So all these children are out of school, they're at home, they're spending all this time on social media, these apps, you know, coronavirus crimes are increasing. They're going to continue to increase. Kids are going to find, you know, children to be more and more susceptible to supposed friends that they meet online, things, you know, and then, you know, unfortunately, a lot of parents are still in essential services that need to go to work. And so their children are just at home. So it's just kind of something to think about. And that's the kind of
let's be honest, even the parents who are home, I mean,
yeah,
I love that you're saying that their parents sitting right next to them. And this is not the parents, they just don't know. People are not realizing how dangerous this is.
You know, I can't tell you how many parents said, like, we never knew anything. They said we never looked at her, you know, his or her phone. It's their space, you know, and all of a sudden they were just gone one day, you know. And that's part of the training we give everybody in that CMECI training is they come in, they take a test. I'll tell you how hard the test is. You have to get a 36 out of 40 to pass the test. And I wrote it and I got a 36. So
wow.
it
works.
Yeah, it works. So they all get that. Like I said, they all get their license, everything. But then they have to come with us on, you know, a few to several operations. There's no rule, which is kind of how they fit. And they stand and you know, we vet them. So we go through their background. Even though we know they come from a good place, we still go through everything. We have our own social media and computer forensics investigator who goes through his side. We have our own background source who go through another side. Once we vet them, bring them in, they work with the team on a limited scale, and then they slowly learn because we have a lot of technology that we use. You know, we have a mobile command center that has, you know, multiple computers, drones, all this stuff, donated, a lot of it donated through grants and stuff. One, you know, I was going to give a shout out to the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, bought us this $250,000 mobile command center to use, and we take that. So we train them. We give them lots of training, and then they finally get to go on an extended operation with us, and they get to see, you know, hands-on
a couple of things. They get to go around and see, because, unfortunately, a lot of these places that we go to look for these kids aren't the best places, because there's a triad of the street gangs, the prison gangs, and the cartels that are using these kids in the United States, because it's much easier to make, $150,000 a year off one person than, to sell a dime bag 15,000 times.
Yeah, that people are looking for. They're easier to get caught too.
Right. So there's this large triad, and that's what makes it so difficult for us. And we teach these investigators that once you get the first piece of intel, you got to hit it hard and you got to search deep, because if there's one thing that the street gangs will work together on, it's transporting a child from one end of the country to the other.
Right. So you find a dot. You are not at the dot. That's just the top of a whole train of spinning wheels. Wow.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
Unbelievable.
We've gone all the way down to Rosarito, Mexico before to recover a child that was taken from Nevada. So all the way down through, yep.
Unbelievable. So I have a million questions for you. A question from the mental state of everyone who's listening to this, and anyone who reads an article about child trafficking. Oh, that would never be my kid. They know better than that. Kids know better than that. How does it go from sitting in your living room in Nevada to that level of, how could somebody get on a phone and make friends with someone and make a kid do that? So, and like you said, a lot of them have not had great lives, but I have no doubt, I'm making an assumption here, tell me if I'm wrong, that a percentage of the kids that you rescue come from lovely families who love their children without abuse. And there's not stuff, sometimes it's easier then because the parents are even more clueless because they're, mom's making bread in the kitchen. So you get them at their worst state, but there's a process that has to happen to a human being to be that vulnerable. And obviously we're not even going to get into the mentality of the psychos because none of us want to go there. And that's a whole nother episode. Have you found any commonalities or signs to look for from the front end when you're looking at the back end to say there was a point in time this could have been disconnected? It may not be a question you can answer. I'm just curious from your experience.
So it's not going to be a popular opinion, but I
asked. I'm a Maverick. I don't like popular opinions.
A lot of it comes, well, how is this? So the main method that is used is what we call the Romeo method. It's a young looking or young, adult, usually 18, 19, that maybe just got out of high school or is a senior that's 18 or whatever.
We're not talking some old creepy 60-year-old.
No, trying to get into a gang usually, or already in a gang. And so they use the rap and hip hop culture and what it provides, whether it's it doesn't matter what race we're talking about here. There's all of them, and they prey on, and unfortunately, it does depend on locale, but, they try to prey on the highest level person. So we find a lot of middle class,
right?
And they prey on the,
and I should have believed it, but I didn't.
Well, you got to think it's mostly, and I can honestly say this, we're looking at high 90% here. It's mostly young girls, 13 through 15. And you got to think rewind when I said innocence of a child. So it all comes down to building trust. And so they take advantage of that. They take advantage and they say, hey, why don't you come party with us? I'll be your boyfriend, whatever. Okay, now it's, hey, try this, try that. Well, if you love me, you'll do this, and then before you know it, that is her. She's turning against her own family. And that is her family. That is who she trusts now. She does not trust anybody else. So it starts small, and it starts on, and you would think it'd be right in our faces, but most people don't think about it. I mean, it's still Facebook Messenger,
Amazing.
Snapchat, Instagram,
it's
everything, and I'm not saying those things are inherently bad by any means.
No, but it just shows anything can be used for, you just said building trust. Building trust is one of our most amazing things as human beings no other animal has. And it can be used for good and bad, like everything can. But I'm asking this because I really want the listeners to understand there's no one, I don't want to scare everyone, lock your kids in the house, but you just described something that as two adults, that's how every relationship starts. Meaning that's how your two kids in high school become friends and boyfriend and girlfriends. That's, if you think back to relationships, I'm a single mom, I go out on a date. It's the same process. There's not some sinister way. How did they not know? How would they know?
Right. I'll give you some they're closely related to what I deal with, but they're just some crazy, especially because we're going on where everybody's locked indoors.
Yes.
So 70% of human sex trafficking victims are sold online. So 1 in 5 kids have been sexually solicited online. 20% of high schoolers have met someone in person they first met on the internet. 24% of teens have been involved in some type of sexting. 1 in 7 children with a smartphone receive a sext by age 10. 1 in 3 children with sex abuse images are posted by the child. Minors share graphic images for likes on social media.
Oh.
And it's, so those are some very disturbing statistics that are very closely related to what we're dealing with. And it comes down to, and I say this with, I don't have a child yet. And I say this just
You do this every day. Why the hell could you bring a kid into the world?
Is this phone is never a child's phone. It is always the parent's phone. You have to, and even as in my day job as a police officer, I've gone into a house where a parent told me that they could not give me permission to go in a room because it was their child's room. It took me back for a second. But I'm thinking, how many parents are like that though with their child's phone? Like, oh, it's their phone. I'm not going to go into it, No. Grab this thing and look at it anytime you want, because that is how you're going to stop this. You're going to, you're going to nip it, and unfortunately, even after we recover some girls, we've sent some, because we try to send all, but we send some to rehabilitation, long-term rehabilitation. Other states where they go to school, but they try to, because these girls are so trusting and so in love, quote unquote, with their captor that they just want to go back.
And so I was going to ask you, and again, tell me only what you can and generalize here, but maybe I'm being too curious at this point. I'm a mindset person. So you walk into these horrible places and there is this sweet kid who 2 years before was sitting on her, was on the cheerleading team in small town America. And you're getting a kid who isn't potentially not scared and is obviously in an environment he shouldn't be in, but potentially likes it in their mind and doesn't want to be taken out of there. I know this happens a lot with cult culture as well. It seems to be working for them in the moment. So when you take them out, in what condition are these kids?
I think every child, I can honestly say every child we recover know to a certain extent that with the situation that they're in isn't going to last forever, no matter if they like it or don't like it. You talked about the All-American kid there for a second. We had a girl who was, I want to say she was 14, and she was en route to be an Olympic speed skater. Like, she was Junior Olympics already, like en route. Taken away, completely destroyed that part of her life. But she went to the rehabilitation, went back and got back on, for lack of a better term, back on track. Maybe not to what she had going, but back on track for whatever a normal life is today. I have no idea, but that, the biggest thing, and this is how Save in America works differently, is when we work with parents or guardians, we give what's called a power of attorney. So regardless of what the child feels like, it doesn't matter because we're the parent in that moment.
Amazing.
We make that decision to give away. And then we work with the parent and say, hey, depending on their state and how and where they're at, they can go, maybe they need to go to a rehabilitation facility near their house. More often than not, we suggest a lockdown facility outside of California, because California, along with some other states, don't allow lockdown facilities for children. So we try to raise the money for that because they're not cheap by any means.
But also, you're like, oh, great, it's a rescue thing, and then it's over. That's when the road starts.
Yep.
That's just getting the kid back. Then you've got parents and child in a whole new relationship and mistrust and fear. I mean, if God forbid this was my kid, I'd probably bubble wrap them and staple them to the wall. So probably not helpful, Jewish mother from New Jersey. But, you know, there's just so much now. And then the guilt and the stress and of the parents and community. There's just so many elements here that you are creating, you know, in a vacuum. This is awesome, but I'm not saying, God forbid, you're creating another problem, but you walk into a whole nother level of this that the government's not taking care of. There's only so much you guys can help fund. So, you know, I will be interested to see now, you know, you're hitting the 11-year mark. I can't wait to see these kids in 10, 20 years, what they'll be doing and how they function.
I can tell you that one of the beautiful things of Saved in America is watching how we work with the parents even afterwards. So I mentioned Brittany Drexel early on. I don't know if for those who don't know the story, Brittany Drexel, she was on a spring break trip. She was 17 years old. They have video of her leaving with somebody that nobody knew who it was. The FBI later confirmed that she was taken to North Carolina and trafficked. And then when she attempted to run away, she was shot and they fed her body to alligators. That's what happened. What Saved in America ended up doing, because that story was a catalyst, is we actually flew Brittany Drexel's mother out to one of our fundraising events. And we gave one of the original girls that we had rescued a Brittany Drexel Child Saved Not Sold Scholarship Award to help her with she wanted to go to cosmetology school. So we gave her that thing. So that's something.
I made it this far without crying. Now you just killed me.
You made it this far.
By the way, you don't know me. This is big. Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of
comes back to everything happens for a reason.
That's something from the start. We decided that we're not just going to, like you said, we're not just going to come here at the beginning and rescue. We want to be there throughout. And we have constant communication with, we have 237. So we have hundreds of thousands of emails with parents. Hey.
You said you don't have kids. You have that many kids. You have that many kids. That's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
That is just so unbelievable. How can people learn more about you guys and help the organization, whether from a donation perspective, an awareness perspective? I'm in. So whatever you need from me, I'm in.
You know, so basically how it works here is and I hate, this is the part of all my, my interviews and podcasts that I'm like, but it is true. Saved in America, like I said, we don't charge parents anything.
And it's priceless anyway. So there's really there's no number to put on this look
right.
at this.
Now it's just, but to give people an idea. So to do one operation to save one child is $5,000 to $6,000. To put that in perspective, for law enforcement to come in and do a runaway investigation and rescue a child costs $60,000 just in man hours. Wow. So it sounds like we're doing $5,000. It's 1/12 of the cost, to everything else. But then if we go out of state and we take the mobile command center and we go somewhere to rescue a child, that goes up to $10,000 to $12,000. We have annual fundraisers, but honestly, it's the donations that people just go on www.savedinamerica.org. They just click donate, and whatever. We've had people, $5, $10, all the way on up. We're actually working right now with our communications director, because up until now we haven't really had a lot of opportunities for volunteerism outside of your special operations police background. We're working for that kind of stuff too. But we've had, this is, I kid you not, somebody had a giant Beanie Baby collection that was worth a lot of money, and they just donated. They brought the bag and just donated. So it's however somebody thinks they can help, however they want to help. And I know people take this lightly, whatever. Even down to your thoughts and prayers. To us, it doesn't matter. just please, and spread the word. Spread the word, not just about Saved in America. We don't want to, be this big kid on the block or anything. Our biggest hope is that we don't have to exist one day.
Exactly. May that come true. We'll be happy. We can all go sit on a beach. You all
Yeah, right.
high five each other and close up shop. That would be beautiful.
Yes.
Unbelievable. So I could talk to you for 3 hours. I want to ask you on the human side, because for those of you listening, I teach mindset and performance about how to optimize your life, your career, become someone who not just that you could be proud of, but that you feel is adding value to the world and has an impact on themselves as well. Life is not easy. We all may not be sex trafficked, but especially in today's environment, there's a lot of stress and pressure in the world for whatever level. And my goal is to help people learn how to be better, not just do better. So I teach 5 areas of a Maverick life, which are self, relationship, business, career, well-being, and creativity. So what I like to do at the end of each interview is kind of do like a quick round of questions. As a human being who's got a lot on your plate, you carry a lot, you go to sleep at night with a lot on your mind, you need to be an optimal you in order to be able to do any of the stuff that you do, both your day job and this, and whatever else you have time for in your life, which is probably not much, especially with 237 children. So I'm going to throw out one of the words, and you can say something that has helped you in that area, something you're working on. I mean, none of us are great in all of them, which is why I do this. It's to say, this is a real human being here. This is not only a hero we have on here. There's a person who Tuesday morning had to put his pants on this morning and may not have wanted to. So we'll start with self. Throw out anything that has either helped you or you're working on or you struggle with.
So working on, I coach wrestling. So I've been working on a wrestling club and starting a women's wrestling club where I'm at. So that's...
I'm coming down to Virginia. I am coming down. Amazing.
Struggling with, I mean, honestly right now, it is because we're in this COVID-19 crisis, just trying to stay in shape.
We think COVID-15, everyone's going to be walking around an extra.
Right, exactly.
So suddenly carbs are much more interesting than they were when we could leave the house.
I'm telling you. Yeah, that's, and then of course, for self, I pray, if you don't pray, meditate, it really does, and envision, if there's a goal at the time, whatever is right in front of me and I go to sleep and I see it, I envision it over. I tell my wrestlers that all the time, like envision your goal and just see it all the time.
Have you always been this way?
No, I have not. It took a lot of training and a lot of self-training.
Did you ever think from that other person that you used to be that you could be this person?
If it depends. If you had asked me when I was 12 and 13 with my dad's affirmation, yes. If you asked me again at
that in-between phase, little
right. If you asked me again at 16 through 20, probably not.
Probably would have given us the finger, be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, probably.
And that was probably not easy to grow up with such a strong character, with such integrity. And people are like, oh, you're so lucky. That's not easy to live with a hero like that.
I'll tell you, if you had met young Marine me at 19, Lance Corporal Travers, I would have given you the bird and just to get away from me,
Exactly. I'm not interested. I'm just keeping the wheels on over here. Right. And that's why I asked, because this is a journey for all of us. Even if we look further ahead or further behind than someone else, each individual can only take personal responsibility to then create anything else that they want in their life. Okay, relationships. This could be family, friends, partners.
I'm working right now. I have a wide range of friendships. I've got my Saved in America family, 237 kids. I've got...
He's a guy. Christmas must be hell.
Okay. I've got my, police department, that I'm, we try to keep in contact, especially with this. It's, we're used to hanging out all the time. Now we can't. We got to stay separate. I've got regular friends too, coaches and stuff that I go through. And then, of course I'm married. So I have my wife and, we're kind of both stuck in the house together more than usual. So that's an interesting one to work.
Everyone's like, oh, there'll be a baby boom. I'm like, no, there are going to be deaths. People are going
Yeah.
to divorces online and deaths is what's going to happen.
I've learned what it takes to keep this house as clean as it normally is. So.
You had no idea.
Nope. I thought it was a magic table and things just disappeared.
Exactly. As you pop in and out from your busy schedule, it's just fairies come and clean it up. I love it. It's good. It's giving everyone lots of perspective. In terms of career, I mean, you have been in the police force probably since you left the Marines, I will guess.
It's actually been 2 years. I spent some time
Interesting.
I spent some time I worked for myself as a private investigator for a little bit, and then I went into retail management, and then I decided to finally go for my dream of getting a badge and gun. I was en route to a really high paying job, and then took like a 60% pay cut to be a cop. So
Totally amazing. And is it a decision you would make again?
Yeah, hands down.
I love it. I love it. It's amazing. Well-being minus COVID calories.
Right, exactly.
On a regular day.
Now, for my well-being, like I said, for my spiritual well-being, I pray, I read the Bible. I try to have conference calls with other like-minded people. And then as far as my, intellectual, well-being, obviously, I keep up with the latest research on, child sex trafficking. I keep my mind sharp, look at, different news sources. I'm constantly.
I have a question on this one for you that as a God-fearing person, and I am as well, I don't see what you see every day. So I can live in my own faith bubble and know that good things happen and bad things happen, and I stay on track. And there are a lot of people who are struggling with faith in general in our world, and especially right now. And I think when fear comes up and overwhelm, there are two camps. There are those of us who pray harder and those of us who say, fuck off, God. So you see every single day the worst of people, whether they intended to be that way, whether they're forced into it, whatever that is. And you not only see it, you then study how to do it better. Mm-hmm. How do you reconcile that with the belief that you have in a higher power who loves us and who supports us? Obviously, there's free will and also crazy people. Where does that sit? Because I know for a lot of people reading this kind of stuff, when kids get sick or kids get taken, or who would kill a kid, how could there be a God? Obviously, it's a bigger conversation, but I'm just curious because I have a perspective. I'm curious what yours is.
So I was actually just talking about this with an atheist friend of mine, and who's works in law enforcement. So it was interesting how we kind of reconciled this. And I told him one day, I said, look, I believed a certain way since I was, knee high to a grasshopper. I know that, and I say I know, and I take that as a really religious term, but I personally know that every single day that everything happens for good. I've seen in my own life to where I was at a point in my life where I never thought I could ever be what I wanted to be now. So when I see all this terrible stuff going on, I have to believe that everything will happen for a reason, because you, my friend, as an atheist, thinking that everything's chance and nothing means anything, have way more faith than I do, my friend. Like you have.
Totally agree. I think that takes so much more strength than to believe there's a reason and to stay on our track. I agree 1,000%. That's got to be such a scarier world to live in.
Oh, it is.
And this can be, I mean, I'm Jewish, you're Christian. This could be believing in universal power. This could be believing in energy. It doesn't have to be a God thing for someone, but finding something to have faith in really keeps the wheels on.
Yeah, it does. It's something every single day. And I have, like coming from like a police force, for example, we all uphold the law as where we're going. Now, other people everybody has different reasons. We have
and different versions of the law.
Yeah, we have Christians, Muslims, we have Jews, we have agnostics, we have Buddhists. We have somebody, not Hindu, Sikh, and so I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, so we got all these different faiths, upholding the law, but, at the end of the day, you got to believe in something, it's just, and even my atheist friend, if you really brought it down to him, he believes in something somewhere.
Right. Amazing
So,
answer. Thank you. And lastly, creativity. And I don't know if you would relate to that word. So it could be curiosity. It could be a thirst for more, something outside of the everyday have-tos.
so, creativity for me comes in curiosity. So curiosity would be, if I relate to all facets of my life, Saved in America, for example, we're always out there looking for the next case. If we're not getting one in, we're looking out. We say, hey, who can we help today? What can we go, and thank the Lord we have a social media investigator that can, help find children sometimes without us even being there. Because during this time, some of us, like the was in California, they're on lockdown. They're not supposed to go anywhere. So we're finding a creative way around that to keep rescuing these children, because they're still getting, taken away from families and stuff and then walking away. So on, my career, my professional life, learning how to navigate something that hasn't had to be navigated since, the Spanish flu.
Exactly.
And then on a professional level, I started like I said, the wrestling club with the first women's wrestling program in the area. But now, because of this, it's kind of hard to do that and keep it going. So you got to creatively think of, ways around that. And then, personally on my level is just, honestly, my creativity for me, like I started running out of things to do. So I just did a backsplash for my house yesterday. So,
And you'll have lots of cleaning to do. So.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're so busy. I know this is a crazy time. This meant the world to me to be able to schedule with you guys and share you with my audience. You are such a gift to the world, all of you. And I know while you may not feel like a maverick, you are shining a light for regular people to do regular things all a little bit better. And I think right now, like we said earlier, we all have an opportunity to make different choices for ourselves when the busyness of life has slowed down. And I'm hoping people binge on things like this, because it can make everyone think for 5 minutes, what can I do for an organization? Where can I help? What is something that I have a skill in that can change someone's life, instead of hoarding it for ourselves? We don't get the gifts from God or wherever people think they get from to keep them to ourselves or to not have them come to fruition. So does it take work? Yeah, but so does saying suck. So that's not really an excuse anymore. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. And if anybody wants to just bring awareness for Save America, it's #ChildSaved, not sold. That's just what.
I am going to put the website up on the show notes and spread the word. And let's get you guys some new followers, new supporters, and new cheerleaders. You have all certainly earned it.
Thank you so much. And you just have the most blessed time. Thank you.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the Mavericks in Motion podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget to head over to subscribe and leave a review for us. And if you want to know how to capture your own Maverick, head to SherryTeekman.com and grab a $1 14-day trial in our membership, Maverick Life Unleashed. See you in the next show.